This is CS124 Lesson 3.2 Strings. Before watching this video, please make sure you know how to declare an array, traverse an array, and pass an array into a function. After watching this video, you will understand the importance of a null character and you will learn to write a loop to traverse a string. The key difference between a normal array and a string, or an array of characters, is that the character arrays have a null character tacked onto the end. The null character is simply the escape character followed by a 0. So, a character array, or string, would look like this in memory. A null character is the equivalent of an integer 0 or a boolean false. The null character can be used to initialize a completely empty string. It is important to note that char arrays will always be bigger than you expect, since you need at least one extra character at the end for the null character. Declaring a string follows the same syntax as declaring a normal array. Likewise, passing a string follows the same syntax as passing an array. The benefit to having a null character at the end of every string is that we no longer need to guess the length of the string or know it in order to traverse the string successfully. Previously, in order to traverse an array, we needed to know the exact size of the array so that we could break out of the loop before we went past the array bounds. Now, we can simply traverse through the loop until we hit the null character. However, since the null character has a boolean value of 0, we can simplify even further. These two loops will operate the same because all ASCII values except null evaluate true, while null evaluates false. Because of this, when the null is reached, the statement evaluates false. Now we're going to work through a couple examples. First, we'll do an example where we have a string, and we're going to convert the blank spaces in the string to underscores. So first, let's initialize our string. Now that we have our string, we need a for loop to traverse our string. Now we're going to find out if the text at spot I is equal to a space. And if it is equal to a space, we're going to replace it with an underscore. And then we'll quickly display our text so that we can see the results. So now when we run this, we see that our text now has an underscore in between it. If we tried more complicated text, we would find the same result. Notice that where our spaces used to be, we now have underscores. In our second example, we're going to take a string and display it backwards. So first we need a string, and the first thing we need to do is find the end of the string. Since the null is equal to a 0 value, we can continue to search through the string as long as text I is not equal to 0 or null or false. I will now hold the entire size of our array because it's traversed from the beginning, the spot 0, to the end of the array where the null is. Now if we run this code, we get our string backwards. Let's try something a little more interesting. Our third and final example will simply be converting text from uppercase to lowercase. Once again, we need to initialize our text. Next, we need to create a for loop that will loop through all of the elements in the array. Remember that we can either have text I or while text I is not equal to null. For simplicity's sake, we'll just have while text I is valid. IsUpper is a simple function in the standard library that returns true if the current character is in uppercase. Similarly, toLower is also in the standard library. It takes in a character and returns the lower case value of that same character. So now what we should get is an inverted version of our text. You may have noticed that we forgot our brackets. So while we're trying to reference this as a string, it's only a single character, and so we get strange errors. So we'll make a quick fix and proceed onward. So we got an inverted version of our text. Now we're going to take a brief quiz. As always, you will have 5 seconds for each question on the quiz, and there will be a total of 5 questions. True or false? A string can be declared the same way as a text array. This is true. Although a string is called a different name than a text array, both of them are simply arrays. The following text will require how many spots in memory? Because this is a string of characters, it will require one more than the number of characters you have contained, because we need a spot for the new line. So we will need 7 spots in memory. Which character goes at the end of every string? A null character is at the end of every string. The first spot in a string is numbered spot, array counting always starts at zeros, so the first spot in a string is spot 0. What will the function header look like for the function fillText? When an array is accepted as a parameter, you must have brackets that are empty following the name of the array. Now you should be able to explain how strings and arrays are similar, as well as the differences between them.